So when you work with a GUI operating system all the time, you can find that the command line can be a little bit intimidating. Not quite sure what to do there. It's always that whole thing of I don't think I want to use the command line. Right. So there is definitely a learning curve involved in that, and you go maybe there's a different way to do this in a graphical user interface, so I don't have to use the command line. I don't know what to do. That is a common that's a common thing, and so a lot of what you see on some forums a lot of times is just it's people trying to understand how to use the command line and how it works. And so I'm going to take an opportunity to kind of guide you through using the command line, and part of the way that we get better at something is practicing it. And so as you practice, and if you don't practice, you'll never get better at something. So sometimes you have to kind of force yourself into the mode of using the command line, and it's like, well, what can I do on it? And then you just got to start. And so we start by playing, and there's a lot to be said for play in especially in Linux. And so I'm going to bring up our trusty WSL. If you haven't installed WSL or Windows subsystem for Linux, I would highly recommend that you do that. There are some instructions on how to do that. And the reason why I would recommend it is because it is a command line. Now, I do have the ability of running graphical apps with it, and I'll show you that in a future video. So we can utilize the graphical um, features or versions or things of the operating system. So that's definitely there. It's possible. But in the base installation of Windows Subsystem for Linux, it is a command line, which gives you the option and opportunity to practice. So a couple things. The first thing that command that you may see that you will use a lot, you may have seen this in the book, is the echo command. So echo, it means tell me what, or give me what I gave you back. Okay, so when I echo something to the terminal, essentially what I'm doing is, in this case, this command is the hello is the parameter that I'm giving to echo. So echo will take whatever is after the first space, unless it's an option, and it will use that. Everything it grabs after that first space, and it will return it back. So this particular line here is considered the input or the console input, and what I get back out of that is the output. So notice that the echo command was not returned. Instead, hello was returned. Now, I may want to um, go about allowing Echo to do something with some special characters. So we can look at the manual page for Echo, or any command rather, but I'm going to look up the man page for Echo, and I'm going to go ahead and do man Echo, and what I see is that I got a couple switches that I can use, and enable interpretation of backslash escapes. If dash E is in effect, following sequences are recognized. And notice that first one is backslash A. So that's the alert. In general, when I use a backslash, essentially what that does is it escapes the command that I'm putting in. So if I wanted to preserve something that would otherwise be interpreted a different way, I use a backslash to escape it. So in this case, if I echo A, I'm going to get A. If I echo backslash A, then I'm going to get A. Essentially, what I've done with that backslash key is the shell interprets that as an escape sequence, so it ignores it. But if I want to see the backslash, I have to do 2, and now I get the backslash A. So essentially what's happened is my shell sees the first backslash and it says, okay, I'm going to ignore that, but then it sees the second one and goes, oh, it means I'm escaping that. I need to interpret that literally. So then we have the backslash down. Now in this case, we had that switch called -E for interpreting the characters. Now what should happen when I do the \A with -E according to the man page is that I should get a bell. But I don't hear the bell, right? And so why? And the reason why is because, again, it's the very same thing. The shell is interpreting this backslash as an escape. So it's expecting that the next character is a literal character that I need to interpret. So the sequence that I'm looking for here is \A. So in order for me, and I'm going to use the switch E to interpret the bell character, which I have to code with a double backslash to escape it, because what I'm sending echo and asking it to interpret for me is the bell. So and I don't hear the bell until I do the double backslash. And you may or not have heard that bell, but it did happen. It did occur. And you also will notice that the echo command did not report the A. It used that sequence \A and created a bell. So there are, in this particular case, just trying out that particular command, there are a lot of things that we can learn about the shell and about how it functions in terms of interpreting characters and in terms of the meta characters, the backslashes, using the manual page to see that options, which we wouldn't really know that existed without looking at that man page. So let's just jump back in here, and so that bell happened after I echoed the line. But I can use echo for any number of things, and I'm going to go ahead and use echo, and I'm going to say let's take that echo, and instead of giving it to me on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and send it to a file. All right, and I'm going to make that file. Let's see. First of all, I'm going to go into my test files folder. Now that's my shell autocomplete. I use a tab to figure out if that's what I really named that folder. I couldn't remember. So here's my test file folder, and I'm going to echo the word hello to hello.txt. Okay, I do not have to use file extension in Linux. It does not use file extensions. There's no. I could just say hello here. Okay, I don't need an extension. I do that out of convention, just because I'm a guy who learned this stuff in Windows, right? I'm a DOS guy, right? And so the more you get used to using it, you probably may eliminate the extension. But what we can do is we'll use both. So let me echo hello to the file called hello, and I'll echo hello to a file called hello.txt. All right. Now I'm going to list the hello files, and you can do this, right? You can do this yourself. So I'm going to use the list command to actually show those files. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the detail mode on list to show me the files there. And a couple things about ls that we learned is that one, I can use wildcard characters to show me all of the files that start with hello or contain hello. In this case, in this case, every file that starts with hello is implemented because the asterisk is at the end. But see, both of those files are there. They have the same file size because I've sent the same information over to them. And then if we use the file command, and I'll do the file hello star, what it should report to me is that in both instances, whether I have the txt extension or not, I have ASCII text inside that file. And so I can use, well, we'll do a couple of other things. I'm going to echo and now we're going to use some escape sequences here. Hello, new line, and we'll see if first of all if that works. So yeah, so see there that echo actually sent a new line character out. So I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of lines in this file. Hello. This is line 2. This is line 3. 2. Hello.text. Now we're going to use the cat command. Now that stands for catalog. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and send the output. So, a couple things that happened. The first thing that happened is that we didn't overwrite our file, we added to it. So the double arrow actually just added to what was already in the file. It was called append. Right? If I would have done the very same command with one arrow, notice that in this particular case, I have now overwritten the file. So that is a significant thing to learn about the arrows. If I'm redirecting the output of echo to a file, I can overwrite, or I can overwrite with 1, or I can append with 2. And that's true when I'm sending in the output of any command to the input of another. I can use that always. So that is a redirection operator. Okay. And so now I have now what I have done is I have used those control characters, and I have created, and I've told Echo, okay, use the escape sequences that I give you and interpret them as control characters. So because I've added those in, now I have these multi-line files. If I had not done that, my file would look very different. And we're going to go ahead and show you that. So I'm going to do an echo -e. Hello. I'm sorry, I'm going to eliminate the A. So hello. Line 2. And I'm going to use the single arrow to overwrite. And I'm going to put it in my file hello without the text. Now what I can do is I can use the cat, and I can, the cat will, instead of taking one parameter, can take multiple parameters. So I could, while I could do this with the star, I could also do it by typing the 2 file on the line. So what has happened is that the cat is responding exactly what I've told it to do. It's showing me the first file and the second, right? So notice that that first file, and I'm going to do it just on itself, because I didn't use the dash E switch on echo, it interpreted it used the first backslash and said, oh, that's a meta character. I'm going to interpret that next character literally, and it printed backslash in for me. But I don't want that. I really wanted it to give me that new line character. So that's the difference in that using that dash E in Echo is how that output works. Okay, and then of course, if I use cat and I did hello star like before, I get both files at the very same thing instead of. But you can imagine if I had like 10 files that were all named hello something, it would be much easier for me to do cat hello star than it would for me to do hello 1, hello 2, hello 3, right? That would get old. So the wildcards allow me to do a lot more, and it allows me to basically do it in turn, one over the other. So now I could use these and combine them, right? And I'll go ahead and cat hello star, and I'll do overwrite, and I'll make a file called concat hello. And then if I look at concat hello, I got all of that in one file. So I can utilize this to combine files really easily. Um, if I had a lot of log files or other output from a script or process and I wanted to combine them into one file and maybe compress them into a compressed file, for instance, I could do that very easily using commands. So the idea is that what I get out of this is that everything in this command window is scriptable, and I can ultimately, if I had the ability to repeat and the output is very much expected, okay, and it does what it's expected to do in the same way every time, it can be automated. And so that's what we use the command prompt for in a lot of ways is automated interpretation and automated action. There's a couple other commands. Notice if I do file and I do star, it's going to go through and it's going to give me all the files in the folder and what types of files they are. And then another command I can use that's kind of fun is if I ever need to create a file without putting anything in it, I can use the command touch. So I'm going to use touch and create a file, and then I'm going to look at the file using that command, and it says it's empty. If I look at it with details, I can see that it was the file that I created. I own it. It's 0 bytes big, and it's just sitting there waiting to be used. Right, so that's the touch command. Now, one of the things that happens, that can happen with touch, is I can use that essentially to it touches the file. It updates the metadata on the file, so the date information of the file gets updated when I use touch. So if I ever wanted to modify a file access date, I could use touch to do that. And so touch can do some stuff. If we look at touch, there's some other options, right? So if I wanted to control the way touch works, change only the access time. All right. Dash C, do not create. Now, here's an interesting thought, right? And I want to kind of let you go through this process. Now, I just use touch to create a file. So I see an option for touch or a switch that is dash C, do not create any file. So there's a logical thought question here. Why would I want to use touch, which I could use to create a file, with an option that says don't do it? And so one of the reasons why I might do that, right, is let's just say that I don't know if a file is present or not. And so I'm going to use that command in order to in order to if it is present, I'm going to update the date. If it's not present, I'm not going to do anything. And so I can at that point I can see um, the status of the exit of that command. So if I use that touch with a dash C switch and I tell it don't create a file, so I could use that to both update the existing files information at the time, and then the other is it would not create one if it didn't exist. So that's just an example, and it's a thought experiment that's good to go through. And when you look at the different options, you want to train your brain to think about what if, why would I use this option? What would make me want to do it or not want to do it? So we notice that with these options, we can change the access time or the modification time, right? And so these there are two times on the file. So there's other metadata, right, that we have on the file besides just the creation time. So the options are not necessarily prolific on this particular command, but there are some options there that help you to do more with it. And so it's good to use the manual to actually look at the command and get an idea of what is going on. Now, another command that you need to practice um, using is VI, and VI is a text editor. Now, there are some people who would never teach you VI in a Linux class. They would always stick with an easier editor. Maybe it's easier, maybe it's not. I am a person who I'm going to teach VI. That is what I'm going to do. This is the easiest way to edit files once you learn it. And so VI is in this case, VI improved or Vim is a text editor. And if I just launch it without a file, I get some really easy help. Right? It tells me how to utilize this editor. So when it tells me to type colon and help, it is literal. It wants me to type that. If I want some help, the colon Q for quit. And so I can get other commands. So if I just do colon help, then I have this nice help file. Now it doesn't tell you how to actually scroll through the file, but I can tell you that in VI you use J to go down. And so you can go down a line by using J, and you can read all this. And then remember you have colon and Q, and that gets you out of help mode. Okay, and then so there is graphical Vim, which you can get. Uh, it works the same way. It's just graphical, but I definitely would recommend using the command line option. Now, the idea is that I have two modes. I have a command mode, which responds to the colon, and I can give the system commands that way. And I press escape, and I'm back in regular mode. Right, I'm still in command mode now. If I use the key I for insert, well, let's see. Um, okay. Oh, I'm already in insert mode. Okay. So, I for insert mode. Now, in some versions, that's why I was a little bit confused, because in some versions it will actually show insert down at the bottom, but in this case it says no lines and buffer. So when I press I, and your version may vary, but it's going to show insert, or it may have nothing there, but it's in insert mode. So I can type, and when I press escape, I'm back in command mode. So what I can do is utilize the characters to move around the file. J and K go up and down. L and H go left and right. And so there's lots of commands that you can learn. One of the ways to learn that is the VIM tutor. But if I do a shift big A, I immediately jump to insert mode at the end of a line. And the thing is that it seems like it's hard to remember these things, but for whatever reason, the commands just they stick in your mind when you once you use them a little bit. Um, it just it just sticks. And so um, shift big O, and I'm at the beginning of the next line. Escape, and I'm out of insert mode. I'm going to go back up using K to line number 2, line number 3, shift big O. I've inserted a line, and I'm in my at the beginning of it. Um, the Vim tutor will show you DD. I just deleted a line. DD, another one. Now I'm going to hit 3 and a big A. And I have inserted some blank lines in my file, 3 of them to be exact. Now, if I wanted to go in and replace a character and change the L for a P, I could hit X here and insert and P, but I may not want to do that. So I want to just replace one character. So I hit R and L, and I've corrected a typo. So there is and again, that's R, and then the character I want to change, P. And now I'm back in command mode. So so basically what I have done is just fixed a quick typo in my file with 2 keystrokes. So or let's say that I wanted to search for the word pine, and I wanted to replace that character with the word L to make it line. So, from the idea of editing a file, VI or Vim can be extremely easy to use. And so there are a lot of programmers that actually utilize VI to write their code. And so VI has incorporated quite a bit of syntax checking in the document. And we can see if we can see some of this here. Let's see. In this case, I don't have syntax highlighting turned on, but it normally would show. In some versions, it will actually show these tags in color, and that may be something that can be turned on with an option. It can also do parentheses matching. So it's a very full-featured editor for those people that are software developers. You get used to using this software. It'll save you lots of time, and it will be a skill that you can utilize over and over and over. I started using this program back in the 90s, and it's still the same program. So, okay, then we're gonna go ahead and write. We're gonna write the file scratch, and then we're gonna use Q to quit, and scratch is there, just like we left it. So again, that's VI. Oh, play with all these things and look at some manual pages for some commands. Create some files, cat them together. Another one to look at, and this is fun to play with because you can utilize its output, is cal. So when I use cal, what I get is a nice little calendar, and it'll take all kinds of options. There's lots of options to look at, but if I want to just show the year, I get the whole year. I can take cal and I can take the output and I can go ahead and send that out to let's see if I wanted to go ahead and take that output and send it to a file, I could, and we can look at that file. Boom, there's the output. So I can actually open that up in the VI editor. And I have the output from my cal command in this editor. That's just it's not something you would necessarily always want to do. You may want to for some reason, but it's a good way to play with all these commands with some actual output. Look at some options on the calendar and how to display different dates. And send that over to a file. Open it up in the editor. Play around with it. Delete some stuff. Right? It's okay. You can go in and delete a whole row if you want to. Oh, look at that. I deleted every row of my calendar. Okay, now I'm going to go back and... Right, so this is just an idea. You just play with the prompt, play with the command interpreter, and enjoy yourself. You'll learn a lot and gain a lot of confidence that way. So go ahead and tell me in the comments of this video what you did in your shell. Did you do something that you've never done before? Try it out.